morning, everybody. Tonight is 18 November 2021. I call the Village of Buchanan Planning Board to order. Would you please rise and follow me with the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
States of America,
republic
to the
for which it
republic
stands,
which it stands,
one nation, under God,
under God, indivisible,
liberty,
liberty,
and justice for
and
all.
justice for all.
Thank you. The minutes for September 16th, 2021 was sent out. Is there any additions or deletions that need to be done by the board members?
I have nothing.
I don't have any either.
All right, may I have a motion to accept the minutes from September 16th?
Motion to accept the minutes.
May I have a second? Second by Athene.
Second,
Okay, old business, updated plans for 226 Travis Avenue. Rob, would you be presenting this
Yes.
whenever you're ready, sir?
Okay, so basically I had a list of comments from the town engineer from George Palmer's office, which I addressed and sent those back in a few weeks ago, in anticipation of attending this meeting. And we did make some changes to the plan. I mean, the most notable is that we removed the furthest wall, the wall furthest in the rear is no longer proposed. It was just gonna be a decorative wall. And just with the neighbor and everything, with all that situation, we decided, the client, Mr. Calabro, decided to remove that wall from consideration. So we're down to two walls, the existing wall and then a proposed wall. That's gonna be just for grading purposes, just to grade up the backyard a little bit. And then the other half of the application would be the proposed garage and off of Travis Avenue. And, as I said, I believe I addressed all the comments and, Mr. Palmer can enlighten us, if there's anything outstanding at the technical nature that we can handle, that needs to be handled. And that's about it, as a summary of what's happened since the last meeting.
Okay, thank you. George, can you go over what you found as far as the engineer or what needs to be updated or changed?
So can you share your screen, Rob, and show us the drawing?
I can try. How do I do that?
Yeah, Rob, on the bottom of your screen, you see a thing called share.
Oh, share screen. Okay.
Yep, and then you click on it, you'll see if you have multiple windows open, you pick the one you want, double click on it, and now everybody else will see it.
Okay. Can you see it?
There we go. It's coming up now, Rob. There we go. Everybody sees
Okay.
it now.
Okay. So this is the site plan. The wall's back here. Now the wall I was referring to that was removed. It was along this rear property line. That's no longer there.
All right, before you go on, can you enlarge this a little bit so we can see this a little bit better?
Is that good?
Hit the plus sign at the top of the page.
Yeah, that'll make it to your left, next to the hand. Go up,
Center.
go up. No, go up to the right. Go,
Right in
keep
the
on going
middle.
to the right. Next to the
Right in
hand,
the
you see the hand? Yeah, plus, there you go. And then you can move it around by putting the hand over it, exactly. You can zoom in more if you like.
Sure. Okay,
Much-
so this
Much
is,
better. Thank you.
okay, this is the wall that was removed. This one back here. The shed will be removed. It's mostly on Mr. Calabro's property. That's still gonna come down. This is the existing wall that's gonna be lowered. Okay, and this is the new wall. And then there's some grading along here to basically flatten out the yard back here. And then moving forward, here's the proposed garage, the driveway off the road. some grading. So we'll use the side of the garage to serve as a retaining wall. It'll be doing double duty as a retaining wall as well. And there's some grading here. And that's about it. I mean, we got a seepage pit out here. Proposed seepage pit. And that's about it. I mean, that's the crux of what, we're proposing.
Okay, so the shed in the back at the last meeting, I guess there was an issue with who's gonna issue the notice to remove the shed. Is that still an issue? And maybe Brian can answer that.
Brian Calabro or?
Yes,
I
Brian Colombo, yeah.
believe, maybe Peter Cook and his father, Brian, told the owners, my neighbors, that the shed needed to be removed. And they responded with, "We're not moving it." I think that's where they left off.
Go ahead, Pete.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't know. Yes, I spoke with Mrs. Thompson, about Mr. Thompson, and when I went through their file, there was never a permit for that regardless. Supposedly, they were legalizing the back of their house in the mid-'80s, and they were just given a verbal approval to put it up. I spoke with Mr. Bell. He was part of that time frame of people on the board. He doesn't remember that. So basically, I informed Mrs. Thompson about 2.5 months ago that the shed was encroaching upon Brian's property. And they said they had an agreement with the previous owner that he didn't mind if it was there. As well, unfortunately, it has to be moved. I didn't use removed. I said it needs to be moved back onto your property. And from a contracting standpoint, it's deteriorated underneath. If you go to move it, it's just going to fall apart. So I did inform them that it would have to be moved. And technically, they never had an official permit, and it's not on any type of a survey. So I made them aware of that. And here we are. So.
Okay. Now, another question about that, and we'll move down the site, but another question about that small wall that was removed. It was the railroad tie wall. And wasn't it the grades in front of there, wasn't that doing something? Wasn't that supporting the wall in front of it or doing anything for the wall in front? Or maybe it was or wasn't. Maybe Rob, you could answer that.
That was before I got involved with the project, but based on what's the wall there now is self-supporting, the Mafia block wall. So
I guess my question is, you don't think there needs to be something in front of that wall so that the existing wall is not undermined or compromised?
no, I think the wall, I think it's a standalone wall. I think it should be okay on its own.
Was there not a footing inspection of some sort prior to me being here? I remember speaking to Brian about that. There was a footing inspection. There is cement under it as a footing. It's not just placed there. Just try to clarify that.
Well, maybe Brian can answer. Brian built the wall, but I don't think there's concrete under there. I think he put a gravel base and he built on top of that, right, Brian?
It's a gravel base, camp gravel base. There's no concrete.
Okay, I was mistaken. I misunderstood that.
That railroad tie wall, that was something Mr. Thompson installed. But I think that was mostly like a decorative thing. That's not holding anything. It's all bedrock there. So there's no, there's nothing really there that railroad ties were even holding up.
Okay.
They did it to put planters on it.
Right. So in one of I can't see it quite clearly, but in one of the responses, it says that the lattice was to remain. Is there at one point in time, we talked about plantings in front of there. Is there any thoughts for planting in front of there?
Yeah, I have, still on the side of the house, I was waiting to install it. I have a bunch of ivy vine. I was going to install the cover, the lattice. Then, in the future, if the Thompsons and I can agree on anything, then we can plan on putting, something better down there. I just don't want to put anything there now, then have to remove it later or something along those lines. I'm really trying to stop doing things twice. But we could put anything, I put anything down there that'll grow and not, not be a problem.
So when the railroad tie wall is removed, is that gonna be graded? And then plants put on there, or is that just gonna be tamped gravel?
Well, I think we're kind of misunderstanding.
The back wall that is being removed,
No. We're misunderstanding a couple different things. The wall that was removed was a wall that was plans that we were going to put in. But because we're having issues with the shed and, installing that wall, the shed is in the way. So since the shed is still there, that we decided to ditch the stone wall we were going to put in front on the property line.
so from the back mafia blocks, is that gonna be graded so that way the dirt and erosion's not gonna happen, or what's gonna, because I know you were gonna put that little stacked wall so that way you wouldn't have erosion, you could put planting there. Correct?
Well, right, but it's solid bedrock there. It's on the wall is self-supported on the tam, earth that it's on. The only reason we were doing a decorative wall in front of it just to help make everything more appealing. The wall in front of it was just literally for aesthetics.
So basically in front of the mafia block, you're gonna have ivy growing up on it
Correct.
and no stucco or anything? Because I know there was questions about the gapping and locking of the blocks.
Well, the blocks are locked together. There's a keyway on the top and the bottom of the block, and there's a keyway on the sides of the blocking. The blocks are all locked together, and they're put in at like a 10-degree angle coming backwards. How they're installed, so the installation of the blocks is proper. The issue we're having is the aesthetics. So we covered the blocks with the lattice, so you couldn't see the blocks. But as far as any gapping in the blocks, that's just to let any kind of, if there was any drainage issues, that the water would just come out of the gapping. But the lattice, I was planning on leaving the lattice up so the ivy vine can grow on it. So they don't, so aesthetically they won't see the blocks that are behind it.
George, do you have any other questions as far as the tamp gravel and the back portion where the mafia block is to the edge of the shed?
No, that was my concern, which you just mentioned a moment ago, which is the erosion, if that's going to slope off, or what's going to end up being in that location. It's going to be the ivy, and it seems then you would seem to just plant grass. Is that the idea? Is that correct? I can't hear you.
Brian,
Yeah.
your mic's going, there you go.
And then again, on the back wall, it says wall section to be relocated onto property. Is that because the neighbor won't give you an easement or will give you permission or written permission? So he wants you to move it. Is that the idea?
Yeah, we didn't realize that the property line was just marked in the wrong location. So I have to correct that on the, say the northeast side. So yeah, so I have to get that back to where it should be.
So when you say relocate onto the property, you're just putting it just over the property line, or you're putting it, a foot in front over the property line? Where's the new face of the wall going to be on that corner? Do we know?
I like to keep it, definitely be, it's going to be on my side of the property, probably within a couple inches of the property line.
All right, you're gonna get it as close as you can. We'd like to see that on an updated plan so that we know where it's going. And I know have you had any, you said you didn't have any discussion with the Thompsons about the aesthetics, because that seems to be their biggest issue, that they didn't like the look of the wall. So they haven't been in contact with you since, for a while, Brian?
I haven't heard from them.
Okay. And now the wall that's going further up, so you're gonna relocate that? Are you gonna put plantings between the lower wall and the upper wall? Because on the cross section, I didn't see any plantings in there.
Well, yeah, there's intended being, you know, probably either arborvitaes, you know, whatever I can safely grow there, you know, that'll last.
And Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, the code is 15 feet for 2 4-foot tiered walls. That's correct, right?
So it's 10.
Is it 10 or is it 15? I think you might be right. I think it might be 10. So you went an extra 5 feet. Is that what you did, Brian?
Yeah, well, yeah, I'll jump in. I just did it just to be on the safe side, moved it back an extra few feet. So,
Okay.
all right.
Is there enough soil between the front wall and the back wall for the plantings of those trees, Brian? If this is bedrock?
That's a lot of soil.
Yeah, there's gonna be, you know, over 10 feet there. There's gonna be plenty of room to grow trees there.
Okay.
And I noticed you put the fence. What kind of fence is that going up on top? It says vinyl privacy fence. Do we have a cut of that too, or is that just a standard white plain vinyl fence?
Standard white.
There's no slats in between, just,
It's a panel, Brian.
Sorry,
Section. It's a section panel.
correct.
Okay.
okay. Well, that will hide the reason I mentioned that is it'll hide the wall behind it. So that's so effectively you only see one wall from the Thompson property. More or less.
I mean, yeah, technically, visibly, you won't see any of the Mafia block at all. All the Mafia block's gonna be covered,
One way or another.
one way or another.
Lattice and ivy.
Rob, can you scroll down? Rob, can you scroll down a little bit? I think you have a section, right?
Like this?
Can you scroll down a little bit? Keep going, and then go to the right. Don't you have a section of, there you
Yep.
go. So that's those two walls in section. I think, Eileen, you were looking kind of for that detail, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to see Brian put trees in there and all of a sudden Thompson's looking at dead trees and then Brian's got to replace them. That's all.
So, Brian, the trees would be located right between the fence and the break in the slope? Is that the idea?
Yeah, that would probably be best, I would think. I mean, I'm not an arborist, but yeah, put the trees on the flatter slope.
And why, yeah, so the flatter section. So what is the slope between the top of the wall and where the break is? What is that slope? What is that grade? And
What
the
is that
reason I
grade?
mentioned that is we can't create steep slopes either.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
got to be less than 15%.
I think it's just around 15%. I mean, it's about well, if I'm looking at the scale, it's about 2.5 feet over 15. So it's probably right on the edge. So it's
Being on the edge is okay. Being over is not so good.
It's 2 on 12, so it's probably right at around 15% slope.
Okay. All right. So that's the back of the yard. I don't have any further comments on the back. So with regard to the front, if you could blow it up a little bit. Yeah. It says on the bottom, right above the T in Travis, you go up, it says proposed Versalock retaining wall. Where's that retaining wall?
Oh, you know what? That was in there. I should have, that's a mistake. I should have taken that out. That wall's not there. That wall's no longer there. I took that out.
Okay. And is that meant to be a driveway? In the addition, is there a garage under the driveway? Yeah, we were asking for architectural sections too. We didn't seem to see them.
Yeah, I sent in, I'm pretty sure I sent those in, a copy of the architectural plans in my submission.
Okay.
I mean, I'm 99% certain of that. I can check my records real quick.
Rob, if you can show that, because the planning board is the ARB as well. So
Yeah.
if you could show that as well, please, to the planning board, make sure they're okay with that.
But yeah, under the
Okay.
garage, the garage is planning on being like street level, little, just above street level. 2-car garage and that with a bonus room above it.
It's gonna be a garage,
Be street level.
street level. Because you have an 89 in the street and a 90 for the addition, so you got about a foot pitch out, it looks like, thereabouts. So is that intended to be paved in front of there?
Yeah, in front of the garage.
Yeah, because it's not shown as being paved in front of there.
Yeah.
That's gonna be one big long driveway.
I
that right?
think Rob, I'm gonna add that Rob in the village code, it specifies what the driveway should be. You might want to look at the village code as well. I don't want to create any issues after the fact.
Okay.
Yeah, I
If you-
guess depending on how you look at it, with the width of an entrance to a driveway. But I guess
Yeah, and the other thing,
a little different. Without it set up the way it is, there's not enough off-street parking.
no, I understand why you're doing it. You got all those bikes. But the problem is if you park a car in front of the garage, it's overhanging into the right of way. If I'm not mistaken. What's the distance between the front of the building and the property line?
I think that's like 12 feet.
Yeah, that's not the length of a car.
Right. Technically, so right now, all the cars that are from my house and the neighbor next to me, we're all parking, in front of the house down that road. So technically every car on that road from my house, my neighbor's house is parking right away. But it's a big, you're talking about the right of way is 15 feet.
Yeah, so, and the reason I mention that is because the curb, well, it says,
it's not curb.
no, what I'm saying, looking at the curb, if we put a curb down this street, it's gonna cut your driveway down. That's the problem.
There's a curb. Well, right. If you were to move the curb, then right, it would be, but there's a curb there already.
Yeah, the curb looks like it stops right there. Yeah, right where the hand is, right there. It looks like it stops right there. And then it's just edge of pavement. So if we were to continue the curb down the street, we'd be cutting off part of your driveway.
Well, I guess it all depends on if the town was to like jog.
Wouldn't they give them a curb cut at that point?
But I guess it'd be like hypothetical, or we call them like a bunch of what ifs.
Well, yeah, well, we have, as you know, if you drive the Upper Village, we put curbs in wherever we can. And we like to, we don't want to create an impediment, because we do have a lot of situations around the village where people are ending up parking in the right of way and whatnot. So we're trying to avoid that and try to solve that problem before it comes up. So my point is, if we put a straight curb through there, make the road width, what it should be. It should be a 26-foot wide road. Actually, the other side bends in too, and that's that's not right either. Try
The,
to straighten that out too, but you can't straighten out everything at once, Brian.
I guess it all depends on how wide I need Travis Avenue to be. You know, I mean, right now you're getting cars that can park on the side of the road and have two cars drive past. You know, it's like how wide would the village really need to make Travis Avenue when they have other roads in the village, you know, need it more than this road would, you know?
Well, we've done a lot of curbs throughout the village, and we almost have the whole upper village curbed. There's only a few left. And actually, the village code says if we improve it, the road is 32 feet wide, and that allows for parking on the street. But in the winter, you can't park on the street.
Right.
So if we were to straighten this out, we'd put two parallel lines right straight down the road. And I just don't want it to impact what you're doing. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, if you look at it, it would be, you know, a curb would be, you know, 4 feet from my stairs to my front of my house. You know, it'd just be like it would be an unnecessary thing for the village to do on a road that's, you know, have no reason for anybody to travel on. You know.
Well, curbs, we like to put curbs in because they hold the road together a little better. They last a little longer. Because the edges just keep falling off and deteriorating, and then people park over them, and then you end up with these, like you have now, the macadam area in front. We'd like to eliminate those and get the parking formalized to one location. So where I'm leading with this is that you're gonna have two more spaces to the left. Are you gonna keep the one to the right too?
I haven't really decided. But I mean, it's there now. If I didn't have to give it up, I wasn't gonna, you know, because I wasn't at lot coverage. But that's, you know, I guess that would be something we'd have to figure out once, I guess once the village ever wanted to put a curb in.
Okay, in some instances, we have the applicant put curbs in, but some instances we don't. Depends to what extent I'd like to know what you're doing with the driveway over here, where you're beginning and ending, and where the asphalt's beginning and ending with this driveway. So we have some idea what's going on. I see a little bit of a dashed line, but that I think is something else. I don't know what that dashed line is.
What?
Oh, that's a disturbance line. Never mind. I'm sorry, limit of construction line.
That's
But
limited construction.
yeah, that's probably not right because you got grading to the left. So that the limit of construction it's not just the building, but it's the grading too. You got to
Okay.
include everything.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess really what it comes down to is, you know, with the equipment, is just see how well it all, you know, see how well it all comes out.
So George, when they submit the plans for the garage and the driveway, the village is gonna have to verify that this is all under code before they can move forward with it, correct?
Yeah, so we need to see where the driveway is going to be and where it's going to begin. And we don't want to have a 50-foot long curb cut in the front of the house. That's, I guess, where we're going with this. That's not.
You know, that's a different conversation to have than, because the garage itself follows under the code. We just.
Yes.
So, you know, that would be different than, you know, than final thoughts about the driveway. I mean, seeing how, you know, half of it was pre-existing, and it's how everybody parks on how everybody on the road parks, you know. So it just wouldn't be my situation, it would be my neighbor's situation as well.
Well, don't forget, the roadways are also designed for emergency vehicles to come to assist any emergencies. So that's why all these sidewalks and curbs are put in, especially with the handicap crossing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess we're gonna get a little off topic. But I think, Mr. Bell explained it really well, that if the town needed to come in and make Travis Avenue wider, you know, he'd have, you know, feel objective about it. It's just a road that doesn't need it. There's, you know, you're talking about the road is, you know, 26 feet wide. You can park on both sides of it and still, you know, drive a tractor through it. You know, right now, the biggest issue I have is people trying to skip the light, you know, and, you know, trying to speed around it. But yeah, I guess if you're not familiar with the road, you just gotta come by and check it out.
George, you have any further questions?
yeah, one more. The area where this is located with all the grading, it looks to me to be in a steep slopes.
Wasn't there supposed to be a new survey?
No, this is new. This is new. It's upgraded, but it doesn't show the areas that are over 15 to 25 and up. It doesn't show that. And I think that's probably because Brian switched engineers. You went from, I forget the other guy's name.
Right. Right. Yes, we switched.
But you should do that here as well.
Up strong.
Okay, so break down as what were the categories, George? 10?
It was 15 to, I believe it's 15 to 20, 25 to 30, and 30 and up. Something
15
like,
to 25, you mean, and then,
yeah, it's in the code, the
okay,
categories.
all right.
And if you're 30 and above, that's somewhat of the problem we had in the back.
Is that for, are you referring to disturbing it, or are you referring to having it when it's all completed?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Disturbing a steep slope, or are you referring to when it's completed, what's there once the addition was finished?
So both. So what you disturb in those ranges is one consideration. And then when you put something back, you can't put back, or you can't create a steep slopes.
Correct. So I guess really it's, you know, pretty much that is this, you know, once I'm done digging the foundation and the building is completed, that there either is no slope, or if there is a steep slope, it needs to be, you know, we need to have put a retaining wall in.
So that's one solution. So let's just go from the 15 to the 30, because that's, you can work in that range. And if you started out with let's say you started out with a 15 and you ended up with a 15, that would be okay. If you started out with a 15, you ended up with a 25, you didn't really create a steep slopes, but you made a steep slope steeper, in which case you look at it, you make sure that it's not going to be compromised. That kind of condition. So if you need a wall to make it not compromised, then, or a road or whatever, then that's what you got to do.
But if it can be graded, if you know, the side of the property, you know, side of the building and behind it can be graded properly to not have a steep slope, that's fine.
So let's talk about the side of the building here. So let's say that goes from, let's say it was previously 20% steep, and you graded around it and it was 21%. That's pretty much the same thing. It's not, you didn't make anything better, you didn't make anything worse.
Okay.
So if that gives you any kind of guidance, it's kind of a tricky thing in the code. The intent is to not create an erosion problem. So You don't want to make things more steep, but sometimes you don't, over 30% would be a problem.
Right.
So I think you have to look at that area that's where the garage is and the addition and figure out where your ranges are there and bring them back to the board. So what, is there any intent for anything to the left?
So, wait, left of the house or left?
Yeah.
Out here?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. Nothing's
It
proposed.
says, It says slope stabilization with North American green. That's just a grass.
No, that's a erosion blanket. That's gonna be for the slope along here, for the new grass along here.
Oh, I see. So it's gonna be a grass.
Yeah,
The blanket's there temporarily till the grass grows in.
basically.
Okay. And then the drainage from the new addition goes back to the dry well.
Yeah.
How deep is that dry well?
6 feet is the dry well itself. I mean, it's 1,000 gallons. It's 1,000 gallons pit, so it's 6 feet high plus figure a foot of backfill, and then a foot of stone underneath. You probably the whole excavation probably end up being about 7 to 8 feet.
Well, what happens if there's rock in that location?
Well, I guess we'll have to switch. We'll have to switch to Coltex or something a little flatter. We'll just have to make more of them, I guess. We can do a test pit out there or something to determine that.
So 6 or 8 feet. You're still a little bit above the elevation of the base of the finished floor of the garage. So garage is 90. You're at 97, so you're right at the finished floor of the garage, right there, the bottom of it. And are you 10 feet away from the garage?
Yes.
Yeah. So
10
anything
feet
you put in,
minimum.
yeah, anything you put in there has to be 10 feet from the property line and 10 feet from the structure. So you got it in the right spot. It's just what's there, we don't know.
We don't know.
Unless Brian's dug a hole out there.
Not yet. I just want-
Not yet. All right, those are the only questions that we have, Mr. Chairman. Seems like we need them to come back and kind of fill in some of the blanks with what's going on in the front here with the driveway, but
Will you be able to write up a summary and give it to Rob so that way he makes sure it's on the plans and get it back?
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
Rob, I'm sorry, and Rob, take a look at the code. I think it might help you too to streamline it too. And stop sharing your screen so we can go back to the regular screen, Rob.
Okay.
We also need an architectural picture.
All right, I went back, I did send in one set of architectural plans to the planning board. I sent in 10 copies of the site plan, and that was in the package that I submitted, but just one copy. I can send in, if you want PDFs,
When did you do that, Rob?
what's that?
When was that submitted?
With this submission, November 3rd, 2021, I FedExed it from November 4th, so it made it.
I got a hard copy from the office and it's not included.
Oh,
So I don't know what happened to them.
yeah, well, no, I just sent in one copy. I didn't send in 10, with the site plan.
Okay.
Maybe they put
Was
it
it one
somewhere.
sheet, Rob, or was it multiple sheets?
It was multiple sheets. I mean, it was,
Was it done by an architect?
yeah,
Rob, can you just email it to the office tomorrow? We can forward it to everybody, please.
That'd be
what
great.
I'll do is I have to bring them to the print shop and get them scanned, and I'll email them in. Okay, but they're 18 by 24. I don't know if you can see it, but that's Well, probably wasting my time, but this is it right here. I'll email, I'll get it scanned and email, email it to the secretary.
Rob, is that the same plan that Brian submitted in 17? The drawing? I have one copy here that was in the office when I started from October 17. Is that the design, Brian or Rob?
I don't know if
Okay,
I'm not sure. If it changed since 2017, are you saying? 2017, are you saying?
yeah, I've got that. Does that look
Yeah,
like
this
it?
is the date on here is October 1st, 2017.
Yeah, so I have one office that I've had that Brian dropped off with the previous inspector. If that's the current, what you're looking at.
Yeah, it probably is because I don't see a revision date on here, so it probably is the same.
Okay, just checking.
All right.
Peter, do you have any other questions as far as the village building inspector?
Two items I was concerned with more so. Again, I know that shed, the neighbor, the Thompson shed, it just says to be removed, and we know it's not really going to move well. Is that something he is going to just move with Brian and move with the machine and push it back on their property? Are we gonna have a problem with that? The Thompson addressed it, obviously. And my second question is, there were no violations written on this. Brian stopped working wall. There was a problem. And winter is coming and he's going to have his excavator on site to work on the wall. Being that there are no violations, can I not possibly start him on a permit to excavate after the wall is addressed while the machine is on site? Or does everything have to be completed? It wasn't an open violation scenario. That's my question. I didn't know how to move him forward. You know, can't obviously and work on that wall because everything's it's in the way. But he's only going to have the machine for X amount of time. And I'm wondering, is there an issue with issuing a permit to get the foundation excavated while he's doing the wall or after he moves the block? Just trying to understand what to do.
I believe if he gets all the information to the engineer,
Yep.
then it should be able to start up the excavation as long as the engineer authorized that.
I just wanted to clarify that point. Again, I know if there was if violations were issued, we couldn't issue any permits until it was resolved, but he doesn't have violation on the wall. He stopped working on it on his own. So as long as we're on the same page, I just want everybody to be aware.
Does any of the other board members have any questions? Okay, so George, you're gonna send out the summaries so that way they can get the information back to the village?
Right, yes, we can do that.
And then once George is satisfied, Peter, you can go ahead and start giving him authorization.
For the wall
Okay.
we're talking about, right?
Correct, only the wall,
For the-
not for anything else.
Okay.
I do have one question. What happens if Thompson does not remove that shed? How does Brian move forward?
Well,
mean-
I would believe that wouldn't be pertaining to the building inspector or the engineer side or the planning board. So that would have to be probably a legal issue to the court.
Okay.
But we could have Stephanie verify that, but I believe that would be the course of action. He would have to do that.
Correct. I think that's between two property owners, and I don't think we want any involvement in it. If the
Okay,
shed is on Brian's property and Brian asks the gentleman to move it and he doesn't move it and Brian chooses to move it, that's between them.
All right. So are there any other questions?
If, well, I thought, if he have a permit for something, right? Legally built on my property, won't get involved in. But for the purpose of construction on my property that was okayed,
Yeah,
the village wants to change it. So you guys are just kind of just saying what kind of fits the narrative. It's like, if I do it wrong, I'm fixing it because I'm a good person. Somebody else did something wrong, but it's okay because you just don't want to deal with it.
What?
Brian, the connection's really bad. We really
Yeah.
couldn't hear half the stuff you were saying. I'm sorry to say that.
All right, so he has an illegal. Sorry, he has an
Hear
illegal
'em.
on my property, no permit. That's okay. But I have a retaining wall that I obtained with a permit that isn't okay. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I'm doing the right thing. I'm fixing to be compliant with the village. But he's not compliant with the village, but he's okay because the village doesn't want to deal with it. Like,
Well, I don't think that it's the village doesn't want to deal with it. They already stated to him that the shed was on your property and that it had to be moved. And that's
Doesn't move it.
just the bottom line. And Stephanie could, to include and update the information on that.
uh,
I can't hear.
you asked me to stop working. I replied, I did because I respect the village. You asked me to put up a $5,000 escrow. I did, which the majority of that is gone. No change, not gonna be a dime left. You know, because I'm just being a good, resident. But here you have a person who's clearly violating the code, and you're not doing, there's not going to be any further action against him, right?
Well, Brian, does that, I'm sorry, Peter, does that shed require any kind of permit?
Technically, yes. Yes, it did, and I discussed that with them, and they said they didn't need one according to the handshake scenario they were given by board members 30 years ago. I told them regardless, it has to be.
What kind of permit does it need? Does it need a,
All
do-
sheds, I require a building permit and a survey to show where it's going, to make sure it clears the property lines. It's on the
Okay.
correct area of the property, and I inspect it.
so to Brian's point, do we have to issue a violation for the shed? That's the question.
That would be the form of action to take. If
And
they're
we
not going
haven't
to move
issued,
it,
and we haven't issued that?
we have not issued that. It was hopefully going to be resolved between the two neighbors to just move it. And I just told them they needed to move it. And here we are, it didn't get moved. So if that's what needs to be done, then it will be done.
Is there anything in the code about the deterioration of a structure that you could put into that violation of having that shed illegally on the property?
It's not, it's just a storage item. It's not living, so there's no life safety issue, really,
So
It's
I
not
would
falling
say,
down, it's not gonna hurt anyone.
I would say on the
Yes.
village point is that you issued the violation of the shed being there illegally.
Hmm.
That way, if Brian needs to take him to court for any action, he
Yes.
has a copy of a document. Is
Yes.
that correct, Stephanie?
Yeah, is that shed wholly on your property, Brian, or is it half on your property? I don't remember anymore.
I would just,
Good
well,
part.
about
3/4.
About, yeah, Brian, your connection is really bad. So it's about 3/4 on your property?
yes.
Yes, I see it in the plan.
And Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, is it a certain size shed that goes up over a certain square footage that needs the permit, or any shed, even
Yes.
even 10 foot?
I require regardless, 100 square foot or more requires approval, planning board approval.
And there's
10
over
by
100
10, 8 by
and-
12.
And there's over 100 square feet?
No, it's under. It did not require planning board approval, but it did need approval to be, a permit to be placed on the property. I require a survey and where they're proposing to put it and I
Okay.
inspect where they're putting it, so they have their setbacks from the property lines.
All right, so my understanding and just so everybody, and Brian, you should know this too. If the determination of building inspector is to issue a violation, they refuse to move it, it has to go to court. It goes to court proceedings, and it could take months to go to court.
Yeah.
So it really depends. You can do your own action if you wish to with your lawyer and take them to court and force them to remove it, and it'll be a judge's order. I'm just telling you that our process might take months without court, just to let you know.
Go after.
We're even over a year at this one.
I think that was Brian's point, that he put out money for escrow and he put out money already, so if it takes whatever it takes, then that's it, right, Brian?
Yeah.
Peter, have you
Yes,
spoken,
Stephanie.
have you asked them to move it? Have you told them it's encroaching on somebody else's property? Do they know this?
Yes, Stephanie, they were made aware, very well aware of that point. And when I reviewed the file for the resident, that property, there was never a permit issued for it to be on the property regardless. They were legalizing their illegal addition on the back of their house 30+ years ago. And when whatever board members who are no longer with us came to see the property, they said, we want to put a shed up. And they said, okay. And that was that. But I spoke with one board member who is still with us, and he doesn't remember any of that taking place. So I informed Mrs. Thompson, she's the only one that came out of the house, that the shed is 3/4 of the way onto Mr. Calabro's property, and it would need to be moved. And then she proceeded to explain to me that the previous owner, before Brian, gave them permission to put it there, and he didn't have a problem with it. Well, I said, unfortunately, it doesn't belong there. It should have never been there, and it needs to be moved.
Okay,
But from a contractor's standpoint, looking at that structure, the underside of it is deteriorated. And when they go to move it, it's just going to fall apart. It's not going to survive being rolled, moved, or relocated, so to say. So it needs to come down, and I made those points clear to Mrs. Thompson. And Brian was with me at the time. So they are aware. I made her very aware of it. But again, I told her if it doesn't get moved, that a violation would have to be written, and that she should talk to Mr. Calabro to figure out something to resolve it. And obviously that has not transpired. So a violation needs to be written. I will write it.
They have the set, Peter, do they have the setbacks for a shed that size if they moved it forward?
It's gonna be close. It's gonna be close to, well, it's 3 and 4, rear 4, side 3, and they still have to be 10 feet from the house. It's gonna be right there. It's really close. And honestly,
I'm-
it's not gonna survive the move. Yeah, no, that was a very good question, Eileen. Thank you. If they move that shed forward that bit, I didn't measure it specifically, but they're gonna be really close to the minimum 10-foot setback from the house itself with that size shed.
Okay,
Okay.
So I believe they, Peter, you're gonna have to issue the violation to them and then make sure
Okay.
that, make sure the village has all their things covered as far as the violation.
Yes. I will go there tomorrow to try to speak with them one more time. And obviously, if there's no resolve, that's the course that has to be taken.
Yeah, I would just document when you first spoke to Mrs. Thompson and then
Yes.
redocument the date of when you go back there and then just issue the violation and go from there.
Okay,
And then George will give us a summary to Bob and Brian, so that way they can go ahead and get your approval for the excavation of just the wall. Is there any other questions from the board members?
Chairman, may I ask a quick question, Chairman?
Yes.
This a question for George. George, especially the question that's being brought up from the neighbor, just want to make sure in case it comes up again. is the stability of the wall. And saying that it wasn't pinned correctly. I know Mr. Calabrio said it was pinned correctly. I'm just wondering, is that will be documented somehow by either his engineer or you confirm it? Because that's a question I know it's gonna come up, and how the water is draining from the top, upper level that's not going to get on their property. I'm just trying to bring that up because I know that's gonna come up from the neighbors.
So, the previous engineer was gonna write a certification, so I don't think Rob can certify, the new engineer can certify, but I believe the previous engineer, the name still escapes me.
Dan got,
Dan
CRC.
Ciarcia. Dan Ciarcia. Dan
Yep.
Ciarcia was gonna certify that the wall was acceptable, so, you're right, we should get that certification from him. If he hasn't provided it already.
Brian, is that something you can get from him so that we can put it on the record and end that discussion?
Yeah, it shouldn't be a problem.
Perfect. And then the drainage, the new work that's gonna happen from Rob, the drainage is gonna stay on their property. It's not gonna drain down to the Thompsons. So that's the other question that's gonna come up.
I
So
think
drainage patterns shouldn't change. So we're only putting up a wall, so. But I know the previous chairman mentioned something about water going to the left or to the right. We
Correct.
might have to check it out or inspect it and make sure there's nothing happening. Brian, have you seen anything happening in the back of the wall since you put it up?
I went down there and took a look, after that nasty rain we had weeks ago. The wind and everything, seemed to be fine. There's no cause for harm, no voids in the top at all. There's no, like any sunken dirt. There's no runoff on the side. It wasn't like, dirt to move. A lot of drainage in there. I think it was like 37 yards of 1-inch gravel in there, and
It's a lot.
there's
So
a lot.
if it can survive a tropical storm Ida, it's probably gonna be okay.
Well, the question I want to have for George and Brian is what you just said, Brian, is that documented somewhere in the plans or something? So that way it's in in the building department documentation?
In the original engineering, it shows the retaining wall coming up. Then the amount of gravel is like 3 feet, the 3 feet span before there was a screen to separate the dirt from the gravel. So it's in the engineering.
Good, as long as that's documented, and so when the plans, they can be put in the building department files as part of the overall permit and approvals. Just want to make sure everything's documented, that's all.
Yeah, it's all there in the original stuff that I got the permit with Anthony. It's all there.
Peter, just check your files, make sure the stuff is there. If not, if you need any copies, just to make sure everything's done.
We'll
Oh, this is terrible.
try to locate the items.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, there's no other further questions. Once they submit the summary to the engineer and he okays it, then Peter, you can go ahead and give him the start work order permit to just do the wall. And then
Just the wall.
we'll, yes. All right, so can I have a motion for adjournment? Jennifer, yes.
Wait, before you do that, Brian, you looked a little bit inquisitive. The wall, because of Peter saying, I believe, that you have the excavation machinery. Are you going to be excavating for the garage?
The machine, waiting for, to come get to my house. There was a holdup. So we're gonna start with going to the wall and
Okay.
do as much as I possibly can do on the wall. I'm gonna start in the corner where I'm approaching onto Gomes' property. So I'm gonna fix that corner, get everything onto the correct side of the property line. And then just start working my way down and, from there, hopefully everything else is figured out. Then I can go to the front of the house and start digging for the foundation.
Okay, and that's when you'll get the permit from Peter.
Right, and part of that, that's gonna kind of drainage we can put in when we start digging and see what's underneath, underneath there, what kind of material we're dealing with.
Okay. Thank
Yeah, I
you.
think that the plans with the seepage tanks are gonna help take away a lot of the water going back to the backside, so. I think that's a good plan, as long as you get it the proper depth below the garage floor. How low do they have to go below that, George?
Well, he had just by talking, he had the bottom of the tank was the same, just about the same elevation as the elevation of the floor. So he's right there. But it was 10 foot away. The separation is just as important because it works at a 45-degree angle there. But you're right. You want to be lower than the floor. That's always better. But when you build the foundation of the building, you'll have gravel all under there too. And you probably have a footing drain somewhere that goes to something. Probably out to the front.
My other question is that, does he need to have slopes submitted before he can start the excavation in the seepage pit? Or is that not necessary?
No, that's part of the front portion of so we'd need to get the slopes figured out first, yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
Eileen, the way I see this is takes care of the back wall first, engineering, everything's corrected, and then he applies for a building permit from the building department, and then they'll take care of the engineering and all the permits for the front, including the driveway and everything else. That's the way I see it, but they can be done pretty quickly.
okay. I just didn't know if the steep slopes had to be approved before he can start excavation for the garage. That's all.
So yeah, that's a good question, because if there are steep slopes, then he has to apply for a steep slopes permit. And if he's over 30%, that would be an issue too. You can't be over 30% on the slopes in the front.
I just needed clarification for how this process would work.
Yeah,
When I
this is,
it was like, I just didn't know if he knew the process either.
Because I believe in September, we asked for that survey, didn't we, George?
yeah,
And did we ever get that from them?
the survey that we got now, the plan that we got now is the latest. So we're just getting that in September, October. So it's taken a while for the surveyors to go out there, engineers to do their thing. It takes time. It just takes time to get it all together.
Okay,
Right,
just
Brian?
make sure that's under the summary.
Okay.
I thought well, maybe I misunderstood. The whole steep slopes was if we're not sure what slope can be left there based on, we don't know what grade is going to be there after we're done with the foundation. So if there's no steep slope after we're done excavating, then there's no steep slope permit to worry about.
No, you have to have the survey first before you can even beginning anything. That's how the village protects the steep slope.
I don't think so. I think I'm not 100%. I think if I'm not disturbing a steep slope is one of them, but I'm also not, if I'm not leaving a steep slope, but we don't know what kind of slope is going to be there till we're done excavating.
George?
No,
Well,
yeah.
you gotta identify the steep slopes first. That's the first step. And then you know if you can, what you can and can't do. You don't want to be over that. You don't want to disturb anything over 30. While the code says you can't disturb anything over 30% unless it's there's no other use of the property. So that's the problem.
So the survey needs to be done as far as the steep slope before you start, before the permit is issued.
For the garage or the addition, yes.
Now, who
Right,
has to see that? George, do you have to see it, or can Peter see that and can issue the permit if everything is okay?
Well, the engineer has to show it on a plan. We need to review it.
Mhm.
And then we can make a decision.
Okay, so he's got to wait until next month.
So
Is that what you're saying?
he's got to wait till next month to do the permit for the addition, yeah.
Okay, Brian, that's why I wanted to make sure that that was clear.
Yeah.
Because you're coming into December at that point, and you know, the winter weather is going to be iffy.
Not cooperative.
Oh, no, I just wanted to, I just needed clarification. Thanks.
No, they were good points to bring up. So that way we're all clear on what has to be done. George will put it in the summary of what's needed, and then before he can start to do the portion of the wall in the back, then he'll have to get that permit from Peter.
Okay.
Brian, this whole timing thing, I mean, everything seems stable right now. Is there any thought to, seems like you're going into a condition into the middle of winter and you start picking apart things. You don't want to get stuck, have things unstable and have something go bad. Is there any reason why going into the spring would be an issue? Starting this in the spring?
No,
Other than you want it sooner than later, of course, but
I'd really love to put an end to this wall situation. But you're right. I don't want to start a situation where I have to worry about any heaving and stuff like that. And but there is a decent amount of grading I have to do to pull away from pull some material away from the wall that's there before I start dismantling the wall. So I guess there's always something for me to do.
all right. Well, I just didn't want you to get to a certain point and say, well, you know what, now I got the back done, but now I can't do the front. The machine's sitting here and now I got to send it away. And you know, that I don't want to see you incur any more costs than you have to. That's what I'm saying. So if it's more economical to do it in the spring, then I would think that you might want to consider that.
Yeah, well, I'll talk with the so based on how long I get the machine for. If it could stay there, it might just be able to just stay here, you know, until I'm done doing with that, you know, done with it completely, you know. So
All right.
Okay, so you can always reach out to Peter and to George to find out if you're missing anything as far as needed for the permit to get issued for the back. And then if there's no further questions, can I have a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Eileen, and second by Jennifer. That concludes the meeting. Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Have a nice.